Welcome to this course, the BIM Quick Start A101, Modeling Walls, Doors, and Windows. This course includes a workbook that contains exercises for getting started with Bentley's BIM solution, OpenBuildings Designer. You will create a new project workset, a project floor and grid system, and then learn some basic modeling techniques for modeling walls, doors, and windows to create the exterior shell of a small commercial building similar to the one shown here. So I have started OpenBuildings Designer. I'm on the work page. And before we can start or create a new file, we need to set up and make sure we're working in the proper workspace and WorkSet. So every file that you create will belong to a WorkSet. And a WorkSet is basically a set of files and folders that all belong to the same project. So creating a new workset creates that set of folders that contain and define the files and standards for that particular building project. And then every workset also needs to belong to a workspace. And a workspace defines standards that are common for all the projects or worksets that belong to that workspace. So for instance, in a smaller organization, there may just be a single workspace and it contains company type standards. But in a larger organization, that workspace might define a client's particular standards, and then it would contain all the worksets of that client, or it might contain standards for particular building types and would be organized in that way. Now, for the purpose of the Quick Start for Architects training, we're going to use the delivered example workspace, which is building examples, and we will create a new workset for the training project. So I've got my workspace set on building examples. I'm going to come over to the workset and pull that down. You can see some of the different templates that are delivered. Each regional data set would have its own building template. But we're going to use these training templates. So I'm going to select Create a Workset. We're going to give our workset a name. This would typically be your project name. I'm going to use Quick Start Architecture. We could give it a description. I'm just going to copy and paste the name. And then we want to select a template. So there's those list of existing work sets that can be used as templates. And I'm going to select this training template US. Note there is also a training template NM, which would allow you to work in metric units. So choose one of the training templates, depending whether you want to work in US units or metric units. Once you've done that, all you need to do is select OK, and it will create the folder structure for that workset. So once that finishes creating, you'll see that's now the selected workset up here, the Quick Start Architecture. So now that we have our workset set up, we're going to create a new file. So this will be our first 3D modeling file, and we're going to start by modeling the ground floor of the building or the lobby floor. And important to note that OpenBuildings Designer uses a federated approach to the BIM model, meaning we're going to create a number of working models. In this case, we're going to create a model for each floor, and then we will ultimately reference those models together in order to create the full building model. So I'm going to select New File. Note that it has opened up in the Designs folder of that new workset that I just created. So I'm going to create a new file. We'll give it a name. So since this is an architectural file, I'm going to prefix it with A, and then we're going to just give it a name like Floor Lobby. There's a default seed file that gets used whenever you create a new file. In this case, it's a design seed. We could browse and take a look, and we can see we've got different seed files, but the default will be the design seed, and that's the appropriate one here. And then we're just going to select Save. To create that file, it's going to open it up. So let's take a quick look at the interface just to get you oriented. On the upper left here is what we call the workflow. We can set the active workflow. The default will be building design, and that's where we will spend most of the time in this course. But if I pull that down, note that there is also a drawing workflow when you're actually working on 2D drawings. And there's a modeling workflow which refers to 3D modeling, such as solid and surface modeling. So you have a whole array of solid and surface modeling tools that can be used. They're more generic tools. They're not specific building elements, but you could really model anything you want if you want to customize something. And then, of course, put building data on that. The building design tools are elements, typical building elements, such as walls, doors, windows, columns, beams, and so forth. And then also there's a visualization workflow, which would be your rendering workflow. And then across the ribbon here, you'll see we have a tab for each discipline. So each discipline has its own tab on the ribbon. We, of course, in this class will spend the majority of the time on the architectural tab. And note, this is where we have all of our modeling tools, such as spaces, walls, curtain walls, doors, windows, and so forth. And then just below that ribbon, you'll see we have what we call the family and part picker. And so when we place elements in the model, we would pick a family. For instance, just scroll down here, we might be placing a wall assembly. That would be the family. And we would then pick a part, and this would be all our different types of wall assemblies that we might have. Primarily, you'll find that those things get selected for you as you select a tool. For instance, I select the wall tool, and I select a particular type of wall, it's automatically going to select the appropriate family and part. And that part really controls the symbology of that element. And so you can see here, there are default level that it's placed on and color, style, and weight. And that's all defined as part of that part. Now I'm going to pull a couple of other tools out that we will use as we go along here. So if you come up on the ribbon and you'll see that the folder with the magnifying glass, this is known as the Explorer. If you pull this down, you can see the names of these. So first one I'm going to select is the Explorer. And the Explorer has a number of tabs on it. There's a lot of information here. We'll be able to see the items that we place in the model, other resources, such as libraries or cell libraries that might be available to us in this session. We'll have, as we get into the drawings, we can reach the sheet index. And then there's also this links tab, which will allow us to search basically through our WorkSet and find, for instance, our building models. You can see here some of what's currently available. And so we'll use that as we are working. The second one I'm going to pull out is there is an attributes tool up here from the same pull down. And this just gives you the current level and color, style, and weight. So again, this is going to get set generally automatically based on this family and part that is set. But sometimes it's nice to see what's happening. So I just like to drag that out there. There's some additional tools at the bottom of the interface, and we'll cover these in the next session, but we have a floor manager and grid manager, and we're going to use those floors and grids to help keep our model aligned in 3D space, our various models. We have the AccuDraw key-ins, and we'll talk about AccuDraw once we start placing elements. And then note here, we've got these 3 views open. This is how we'll view the model. You can see down here, you can have up to 8 views. This is what turns them on and off. So we have 3 open right now or toggled on. Those views can be set to different orientations. So for instance, we have an isometric view here, a top view, and a front view. We can put different display styles on them and so forth. And you can move from view to view as you're working. So we'll go through that as we start modeling. And then real quick, we'll take a look at the Backstage here. So from the File tab, we can switch over to the Backstage. There are some other sort of utilities and settings that are available here. And of course, we could create a new file or do a save as. Keep in mind, OpenBuildings Designer does automatically save as you work, so there's really no need to be saving the file, but you can do a save as to make a copy of a file. You can see here it's always going to list the most recent files you've had open, so right now we just have the one. A couple things we can do from here. If you right-click on that file, note that one of the things we could do is open that folder in File Explorer. And so that takes us right to that folder location in File Explorer. We can see where it's located. And I'm just going to jump up real quick to show you. So this is that WorkSet that we set up. These are some of the subfolders that got created. Now, we're going to be creating all of our files in this Designs folder. But as we create drawings and sheets later in the sessions, we'll be using these drawings and sheets folder. And of course, there's a standards folder where some of those standards are stored. Okay, let's close that. I'm going to just switch back to my main interface. And then finally, I just want to give you an overview of how this federated model will work. As I said, we've started by creating this A-floor lobby model, which is one of the working models. We'll create additional floors as we go along. Those are going to get referenced together into an architectural master model. Similarly, there would be a structural master and a mechanical master and electrical master. Those could all be referenced together to create the building master. And it's those master files that will be used when we start to create drawings and schedules. And of course, they could also be used for rendering or clash detection. You could have multiple master models for different purposes. And that's certainly not the only way to set up a federated BIM model, but it is the way we will do it in this course. Basically, we will model each floor and reference those together to create the building. So in the next session, we'll take a look at the floor and grid system, and then we'll start modeling.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.